This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. Delighted to be joined here today at the University of Kent with Shane McGUIGAN. How are you, Shane? Happy New Year, if I'm still allowed to say that. It's not too far into January, is it?
Well, no, doesn't feel. That's the first one I've got pretty much. So, happy New Year to you too, mate. So, yeah, mate, back here at the university, obviously back from a bit of a frustrating trip, an unsuccessful one, but yeah, it's done our quarantine and stuff like last week, so we're back in this week. So it's good to get back in the gym.
Let's just jump straight in there. Of course, you're referring to Luke Campbell's unsuccessful trip to Dallas against Ryan Garcia. 7th round stoppage loss. Just your initial thoughts on
it. Great fight. It was a really, really good fight. Disappointed. Two reactions. Yeah, I mean, it was a very sort of high-paced, high-threshold sort of fight. I think Luke obviously dropped him. There was a lot of positives that we could take out of it. Garcia stamped his authority early on, came out, pushed him back. And what we noticed quite early on was that he's making, and we also trained for it, he makes the transition from long to short range really quick because he's a very athletic kid and he's young and he's got speed not just in his hands, but he's quick. He's pretty quick with his feet, especially like when he shoots his attacks in. So, you know, like Luke sort of let him back him up straight away. But I thought, look, I think Luke up until he dropped him, I think Luke was up until Luke dropped Garcia, I think he was boxing the right fight. He wasn't moving around, he wasn't wasting energy, you know. I've seen a lot of people saying, yeah, he could have boxed a bit more, he could have used his feet a little bit more. But as I'm saying, you know, from the analysing it since the fights all happened and taking the pros and the cons away, if we'd have just jumped up on our toes and moved around, he was applying a lot of pressure. He was applying a lot of sensible pressure, and you can burn out pretty quick if you're moving your feet all the time. So yeah, he held it. Yeah, he was making small adjustments, changing his height, going up to high. I think he boxed pretty well early on. Caught him with a lot of good body shots. And then we noticed, I was saying to him, you know, we were working the whole way in camp of him dropping that hand, because as soon as you go to the body, he takes his hand out. James DeGale used to do it. It was like they used to teach that in the amateurs, to like parry the body shots with your hands like this. And he sort of gets lazy and pushes it out like this, but he leans back a lot, Garcia. So as soon as he does that, feed him up, feed him down, bowler, feed him up, feed him down, then loop it around the side. Did it perfectly well, dropped him in the second round, and then from then on he was looking for a little bit too much sometimes. Yeah, neglected some of the stuff that we wanted him to work on, which was, you know, straight shots, get back to working the body again, because then you're going to draw it. But, you know, one thing that people forget is that, you know, Garcia had over 200 amateur wins. He beat Devin Haney 3 times. He lost twice to Haney, but he beat Virgil Ortiz in the amateurs. He's a good kid. He like, you don't get to that standard of boxing and win all those nationals. Like even as a youth, you don't get to that standard. That's right, I'll hold it. Yeah. Good moves there, mate. Yeah, you don't get to that standard without without being a clever fighter that reads the game well. And, you know, he brushed up on stuff that he was doing wrong throughout the fight, and he was up at 2. So he was out on his feet. Luke said the fall woke him up, but he was out on his feet. Boom, then got up, and we counted it. We're like, he was up at 2. So I know a lot of people say, oh, you should have jumped on him and this and that. And, you know, Luke's a very calculated person. You know, he's not one of those guys that's just going to jump in on you. And also, this is one of the funny things, is that a lot of people that don't actually know boxing, you should have jumped on him, you should have done this and that. When you're in there, right, and you feel, even when you're blocking, you can feel the weight of the shot. Even if they miss, you can hear it. And if there's power in them shots, you can hear it. So Luke knew from the first round that that Garcia was a heavy-handed guy, and he was quick with it. So for him to have just jumped in and tried to just take him out, he would have left himself open. And that's one of the things. The whole thing that we were working through camp is not to fall in. He didn't fall in once until the 5th round, and he fell in and he got nailed with that left hook right at the end of the 5th. So, the game plan was to be clever. I wish he could had hit him with that shot maybe 2 or 3 rounds down the line when Garcia was a little bit more tired. But he got up and bit down the gumshoe and started fighting, and you can't teach that. And you can't be an influencer and a YouTube boxer and do stuff like that. He, as I said, over 200 wins in endless amounts of national titles. Yes, as a junior, but still boxing incredible competition. All guys that are now coming through in the professional scene. So I was very impressed with Ryan Garcia. I was impressed with his speed. I could hear his shots up close. I could hear the power that he was generating. And I thought, from our standpoint, Luke boxed well. I don't think that the ring rust really helped him. Also, I don't think the fact that we're coming in off a loss after 18 months out of the ring, no matter how much sparring and training and stuff you do for it, it's hard to get that confidence. You know what I mean? But I think it was a great fight, and there's lots of pros and cons we can take from it. But one thing's for sure, Luke doesn't give a lot of praise, and he was giving a lot of praise to Garcia, and I think that kid's very good. I think he's very good. I think in the next year or two, people are going to see how good he is, and yes, he looked a bit naive almost at times to just jump back up and go straight back in, but the way he puts his shots together, the speed of the shots, I was very impressed with him. And that last shot was a cracking shot, but body shots, obviously Luke got hurt with a body shot against Lomachenko, but that was really well placed. Whereas that shot that caught Luke, it wasn't necessarily the place of it. It was just the sheer power coming through. Do you know what I mean? And he was hurt by it. So I think that Ryan Garcia is going to learn a lot from it, and Luke Campbell's going to take a lot from that fight as well.
Before we come on to Luke Campbell and what lays ahead for him, and indeed Ryan Garcia, just go back to that second round. How demoralising can it be for a fighter and a trainer to land the shot that you've been working on throughout camp perfectly, as you say, out on his feet, and then up at 2 and coming straight back in and firing? What does that do to the psyche of a fighter?
Well, it can be demoralising. It can be demoralising to see someone recovered, but Luke caught him with a great shot, but he still was pulling back. It wasn't like he didn't catch him with the full force of the shot. If you see Luke's fight against Adrian Young, he stopped him with that exact same shot. It's something that we've been working on. It's just a great shot. Luke generates a lot of power from his backhand hook, and it's really hard to get that shot off by itself. So we worked on ways that he can get it off, and he sort of perfected it really well. But with that shot, he should have got back to the straight shots and gone straight back into dropping the shots down into the body. But demoralising definitely can be, but also the fact that he was walking in so quickly meant he was open again. But I think he's got a good chin. I actually think he didn't see the shot, and the fact that he recovered so quickly means that he does have a good chin. So and people can question Garcia's toughness, they can question his chin and stuff like that, but he said to us afterwards, he said, that I've never been dropped in my life, and he has boxed a lot of guys, and you can't hang around gyms in California, because that's where a lot of really good fighters are, especially light, sort of that lighter weights and up to sort of middleweights. There's loads of quality kids there. You can't hang around those gyms in Vegas and LA without being good. Without sparring hard hitters, without sparring fast people, without sparring people that punch at distance, people that fight in close. He would have seen it all, and he said, to us that that's the first time he's ever been dropped in his whole entire boxing career. So. And you don't know how you're going to respond, and he responded pretty fucking good, unfortunately for us.
A lot of the talk after the fight has been about what comes next for Ryan Garcia, the Devin Haney fight, the Teofimo Lopez fight, the Javonte Davis fight is making an awful lot of noise. Ready for those 3 fights?
I think so. Maybe not. I don't know. I think Lopez could be the best one out of the bunch at the moment as well. He's coming off so much confidence. I really don't think much of Devin Haney. I think he's a really good all-rounder, but he's not an exceptional fighter at any one thing. And, he tries to liken himself to Floyd Mayweather, but Floyd Mayweather was knocking people out cold when he was a super featherweight, when he was starting off. And Devin Haney just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that pop. So, Garcia probably walks through him. But I don't think Teofimo Lopez is a good fight, and I potentially don't think Tank Davies is the best fight for him. I would like to see him box a Linares or something like that, I'll go again. That's it, back in. Yeah, I'd like to see him box someone like a Linares, because, from a selfish standpoint, I think he'll flatten Linares, and it will, it'll make Luke's loss not look quite as bad, look quite as, not that it was a bad loss or anything, but you know what I mean. Just it puts things in perspective. But also from that same point, depending on where Luke wants to go with his career as well, Linares is a fight that we should be looking at, because it's, if he. Just we got to weigh up a lot of options and see where he wants to go, and if we stay at 135 or if we go at 140 or so that's got to be a decision that we sit down and calculate, and not rush into anything, because he's coming off the back of 2 losses, but also against 2 very good sort of opponents. And when you risk a lot for big rewards in terms of like world titles and stuff like that, the money's good as well for him. So financially, it's been great for him. But at the same time, it's it's also hard to pick yourself back up for governing bodies and fights and stuff like that off a couple of losses, on the bounce. So. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we have to sort of think about. But in terms of Ryan Garcia, I think he should just box Devin Haney, and either box, if that fight can't be made, then box Linares. If it can be made, go straight in with Devin Haney, because Haney's as raw as he is, but he has better attributes. He's more powerful, he's quicker, he's physically just as strong probably. Maybe not as defensively sound, but I just don't see. It's hard to block. I mean, he threw an 8-punch combination against Luke, and I was like, all right, he missed 2 or 3, but you can't miss 8 punches. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I'll be interested. I think Ryan Garcia is going to be very talented. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to shock a lot of people. But as a lot of people have also likened him to the 4 kings, as this golden era of lightweight divisions, or we maybe call them the 4 princes or something like that. There's a lot of very talented guys in that division, and it's hard to it would be naive of Golden Boy and people like that just to chuck him in against the Javonte Davis. Patience is a great thing. Obviously, as boxing fans, we want it now, everything now. But that's if they box each other now, after 2 or 3 years, they'll be, we'll be spoiled, and then, that it's hard to sort of they just keep boxing each other in these round robins or something. But I think I don't see that stuff happening ASAP. I see there's a lot of contractual obligations, and Golden Boy are with DAZN, Al Heyman and Showtime have got Javonte Davis, and I think it's Fox and stuff. So yeah, there's plenty of hurdles to jump over. Plus, Teofimo Lopez is in with Top Rank, and Bob Arum will have him in severe lockdown. So yeah, the one that can easily be made is Devin Haney. Sorry,
that's okay. And for people who aren't familiar with our interviews, occasionally the light will go out every probably 6 or 7 minutes or so you will see me jumping over. Usually I edit it out, but we'll just get on with it today. Final one on Ryan Garcia. We sat here probably 6 weeks ago, words to the effect of he believes in his own hype. Now, I know that you spent some time with him after the fight, along with Eddie Reynoso and Canelo Alvarez. I know you were very excited about that. Just tell us a little bit about that after the fight, and what type of person Ryan Garcia is.
Yeah, he seems like... I spent more time with his dad and his mum, and also Ryan as well, just because we were all in a hotel. Seem like good people, They've invested their whole entire life into that kid. I mean, it's like a huge gamble, but it's obviously... It's amazing to see it come off, but it's also... It's one of the 1 in 100 success stories, unfortunately, because there's loads of other people that do the same thing and it doesn't materialize. So, you got to give them credit for doing that. I think he's a nice lad. I think he's in a hurry to get somewhere, which he needs a lot of people around him to bring him back in.
He's talking about retiring in 4 or 5 years. Sorry to interrupt. He's talking about retirement by, I think, 25, 26 he was talking about.
Yeah, well, look, that okay, from a financials point of view, he's just done an advert with Gatorade. It was funny because at the rules meeting, the WBC goes, so you're going to wear these WBC badges? And they went, oh no, from saying to the guy from the WBC, oh no, sorry, Mr. Ref, whatever his name is. Yeah, we've just done a deal with Dolce & Gabbana, and they've made the fight shorts, and Gatorade are one of the sponsors and stuff, so we can't put that logo on the thing. And they looked across at us and they went, yeah, we just done a deal with Gucci as well. So we were just obviously joking, and they all found that funny. But you think to yourself, he has Dolce & Gabbana, he's got Gatorade, he's just done a Gatorade advert. He's a commercial machine. You know what I mean? Like, people like Canelo, AJ, and Ryan Garcia are the 3 commercial machines in boxing at the moment. So he's making more money from his YouTube channel and from his Instagram than he is from his fights. So, you think to yourself, that's why he wants to retire in a few years, because he knows there's way easier ways for him to make money, because he's just generating it outside of the ring. So that's another thing that's another thing that I question, thinking, okay, he's making shitloads from his endorsements. He could retire now and live off his social media platforms and the endorsements that he could potentially, adverts and stuff he could do. He's a good personality as well. So when he got dropped, I was like, okay, now we're going to find out a lot. But before I even said that, he was already up. So yeah, no, he's a marketing machine, and I think he's a nice kid, and that's probably why I think he realizes the physicality and toughness of this game, that you don't want to be you don't want to be you don't want to be in here, for another 8 to 10 years having hard fights and potentially losing brain cells and and being we're all right. Sorry, just one of the people in the uni. You don't want to be in hard fights and just be like a sort of a slave to boxing for the next 8 years. I think he's got a good plan, but I guarantee it won't come about. I guarantee he will be in boxing for at least 8 years till he's 30.
Does he beat Javonte Davis if that fight happens next? That's the talk, that it's going to happen next. He wants it next. We saw the video of him and Mike Tyson. Does he beat him if it happens next?
Do you know what one of the things is? I think this is the way he's thinking, because we sat and had breakfast with him the next day, and so he goes, I was in there with Fonfera?
No, Fortuna.
No, it's not Fortuna. Yeah.
Fonfara was the light heavyweight.
No, what's the guy's name that he knocked out in 2.5 minutes?
Fonseca.
Francisco
Fonseca. Fonfara retired, or
yeah. So he was in there with him, and he said, he couldn't believe that Tank Davies took 8 rounds to knock him out, because he said he was wide open and he was he was so easy to hit. But styles make fights, and I think what he has to understand is, stylistically, he was more suited to Ryan Garcia's style because of the trajectory of the punches. I've always been a massive fan of Javonte Davis. I think he's a really well-rounded fighter. He's incredibly athletic, but his frame is only going to take him a certain weight division, whereas Garcia will probably end up a light middleweight, really, if he keeps filling out. He's like a carbon cutout of De La Hoya, seeing them both in the hotel. Very similar frames, light legs. He's actually got wider shoulders, so he'll have the ability to probably go up to 154. Yeah, he went up to 160, but he shouldn't have ever gone above 154. So yeah, but I don't know. Maybe he doesn't beat him now, to be honest. Well, I think Javonte Davis's best performance was against Pedraza, in my opinion. It was a great fight. Knocked him out, but also just bashed him up. And then obviously Pedraza gave Lomachenko a reasonably hard fight. So, there's comparisons in terms of like the only couple of people you can relate them to, or the only one person is whenever Garcia knocked him out in 2.5 minutes or something, or 2 minutes, and that it took Javonte Davis 8 rounds. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to beat him, because if that was the case, then betting would be easy. But yeah, I think he needs a couple more fights before he fights Javonte Davis. But I just don't see it happening now.
Moving on to Luke Campbell, kind of mentioned him briefly about what potentially could lie ahead for him. First of all, how is he? I know from experience that doesn't like losing. No fighter does, but certainly somebody with a mentality like Campbell. How is he, and what's looking likely for the period of his career?
That's the sort of question that everyone's going to be asking us now, isn't it? What's going on with him now? I think he's taking a bit of time off. He's heartbroken. I know he's done interviews like last week. He stated the fact that he is a winner. He is a winner. He's been around a gym full of guys that win. We don't like to lose. So it's disappointing. It's disappointing for him, more importantly, than anybody else. And he also believes he is the best 135 pounder in the world, and he's not going to be in boxing to be fringe world level or anything like that. He still wants to win world titles. I think personally, from seeing Luke box guys, he likes to be the slightly faster person in there. So I would like him to move up to 140 pounds because he's a huge frame for it, and he's 33, and getting those last few pounds off, we don't know how much that's affecting him come fight night. So because the whole way through camp he was in a good place, and he had COVID, and he had no excuses. Like there was no excuses going into it. Even against like Lomachenko, he had a left bicep injury. He had no injuries going into it. So it's frustrating that when you come away from it and then you have to reassess things. But he I don't know where we're going to go from here. I don't know what. There's plenty of routes that we can go, and we just have to sit down as a team. We have to sit down with his promoter Eddie as well, and decide, what the next steps are. So yeah, I mean, he's Eddie obviously mentioned the fact that he's had a hard route, but that's the route that Matchroom and Luke chose to go down the WBC route. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and it was up to WBC to supply the fights. And I personally think if you go into any route in the lightweight division, it's going to be a hard route because there's so many decent guys. But going into a fight, not really limiting your calories and constantly watching what you're eating and trying to bring your weight down all the time. Like I'd like him to roll the dice up at 140, to be honest. So that's what I think he should do. But we just got to sit down and have a discussion.
Okay, well, that's all for this interview, discussing Luke Campbell and Ryan Garcia and all things lightweight. As always, real pleasure catching up with you. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social, and look forward to catching up with you soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you coming down, mate.